So we wait for the Federal Reserve to report what they're going to do today. I'm going to go over my expectations as well as what I see in the markets right now. Now, I'm also going to flip the camera around because I'm excited that I'm still here in Mexico City. You guys won't see my beautiful face, which I know, you'll be super upset. But you'll get to see a little bit of the surrounding area, and I'll still talk about markets while we walk through this little area we're staying in.
Want to make your money work harder? Enjoy another video with Adam Kahn, the rational investor, on stocks, real estate, and crypto. Subscribe now for your weekly dose of investment insights and hopefully learn a thing or two.
Good morning. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, waiting on the Federal Reserve. Here I am in Mexico City, walking around a little bit outside of an area called Polanco. Now, I gotta tell you, I watch all sorts of YouTube videos on Mexico City. Everybody makes it seem super fun and everything else. Don't get me wrong, it's okay, but I guess I came a little overexcited for what I expected. Now, I do find areas like this that are kind of pretty, that I enjoy, and enjoying my walk this morning. But overall, it's, similar to anywhere in like New York or something else. It's just a big city. It's got some things to do in some nice areas, but it's also got some rougher areas too, and an interesting mix. Yesterday we went to Lucha Libre, which was kind of fun. And I'll hit pause here so I can try to see how my editing skills are and put in a little quick video of some of what we saw. Now, forgive me, my editing skills aren't so great, which is why I have to stop every now and then, which might be what I do from time to time. Either way, it's been a fun time, but usually when I go away, I kind of think, geez, I'd love to move there. That has definitely not been the case on this trip. A little unfortunate. And don't get me wrong, we're having a nice time, but I don't know. I don't know how to explain what it is that I'm not loving about it here. We went out for tacos yesterday, which I'm excited to have some of the street tacos. Again, let me hit pause so you can see the guy cutting the meat. All right, my final masterpiece. But they're fairly disappointing, and everybody who does the videos goes on and on about how they're the most delicious things they've ever had. What I'll admit is the tortilla was phenomenal, but the meats were so-so, and I got a little bit of agita, or heartburn, and I didn't have anything spicy, so I'm not really sure if it was just the meats or what it was that caused it. And quite honestly, everybody talks about how reasonably priced it all is. I have to imagine for the size, could do something similar in the US as well, if it was what the demand was for. Now, this area where we are is rather pretty. It's kind of nice. I think that's a museum of art. And then this terrible supermarket, which, unfortunately for being in Mexico, like the fruit and vegetables that we picked up were really lousy and it was rather expensive. Now we're going to a more traditional market today, so I'm much more excited to go out and see if we can find some stuff that's a little bit better quality. I have a feeling that city market is in this area because it's intended for wealthier foreigners or people who like how things look more than how they taste, if that makes sense. It was like a version of Whole Foods, kind of, but a little bit different. Now, as we wait for the Fed to report, I don't think anybody's really expecting them to make any changes to policy. I have a feeling they're not going to cut rates. And I also have a feeling that Powell will give the same rhetoric that he's given the whole time about he's going to wait for data. And it's kind of what I've been saying. Even things like the tariffs, there's really no way to know what the impact is and how that could affect the economy. I don't know that things will really go up in price. I assume they will as well, but I also don't know that that'll slow anything down or change the economy or make any monstrous changes for anybody. I have a feeling it'll be similar to what's going on now, and everybody will complain and bitch and whine because nobody likes higher prices, myself included. I've complained about it in other videos, but in reality, we still have to live our lives, and people still do what they need to do. As long as the employment doesn't get out of control and we don't have massive unemployment, I really don't see a monstrous change other than people getting frustrated that whatever it is that they're getting continues to drift higher in cost. Now, the funny thing about that is it probably creates opportunity for the companies to have better margins and be more profitable. So I think it could be net positive for the stock market despite the recent pullback. I think the recent pullback is more about fears of the unknown and the potential of what they're worried about. That Trump's unpredictable, and they worry we could have a bigger recession than what people expect. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. It's hard to know. I will tell you, the locals out here are not happy with us. I've had a few conversations and a couple of the Ubers from people who are much more worried about the tariffs, kind of like the markets are, thinking that it's going to cause everything to go up in price. But also, according to them, they haven't had a ton of inflation, which is interesting because I'm guessing they probably have, but they're not as sensitive to it. Over time, things tend to go up in value, and maybe they just have better expectations on that than we would. These places are kind of cool. There are lots of them around. See, there's another one. Ooh, that looks good. So my guess is either way that they don't really make any change today. No cut in rates. A continued discussion about how we're going to continue to wait for the data to see that things are data dependent, and that I'm hoping after that conversation, when they probably mention that they think things are slowing down and they'll adjust accordingly, I'm hoping we see equities catch themselves and start to go back up. And the pullback was more in preparation for today's report. I just don't see anything terrible going on. Economies still look strong despite everybody complaining that things are expensive. And I see that continuing for a long time. I really hope for years. It's a good economy if inflation can, like, companies should be able to make more money. And if the inflation can continue and people can make a little bit and complain all the way through it, that's a net good thing. That's not a bad thing. So, at least that's my thoughts. Why don't you guys tell me what your thoughts are? Now, as always, this is not financial advice. Please don't listen to me. You need to do your own research. You need to reach out to your financial advisor or whomever helps you to make your decisions, and not listen to me or anybody on YouTube for that matter. I just share what I think I see and what I think works for me. I was very happy. I started to do a video yesterday, and I mentioned I bought some more Netflix on the pullback. I now have 60 shares, and I'm hoping that it continues higher. It's one of the ones I like. I still like Google and Amazon and Meta and nvda, and those are the only 5 stocks I'm actually holding in my account right now for the trading account. Of course, the long-term one, the set it and forget it one, has additional equities, and then I have a dividend account that has some. And I see a bunch of things that look like good value right now. I still love Whirlpool under $100 a share. I even like it if it got to 105 or 110. I see Whirlpool as a really good value, and they're being impacted by the tariffs, which is part of why the sell-off has happened. I guess my understanding is they have parts that come from, I don't remember if it was Canada or Mexico, that are now going to be taxed. So that pushed the price of the stock a little lower, but I also think that it was already undervalued. So in my mind, when I see something go down even more, it becomes more of a value. I also see Target as a good value here at $105 a share. That seems like a steal to me. Now, I'm wrong a lot, so I really don't want people to just jump in on the things that I say simply because I say it and you find my content interesting. That's kind of my point about you really need to do your own research and not just listen to people on YouTube. I'm also comfortable being wrong when I'm wrong, and I don't mind it. I feel worse if somebody else takes my advice and it doesn't go the way I was hoping. Recently, not super recently, I was talking about a stock I really like because I really like Nextera Energy, and there's also Nextera Energy Partners, which is an offshoot of them that or subsidiary that was giving a high dividend on it. Now, they had a lot of trouble. They even changed their ticker symbol, and the stock has done pretty poorly. And somebody in the comments made a comment about what about that stuff? And I feel badly if somebody put in a good amount of money and they lost on something I said. At the same time, I'm comfortable with the trade I put on. So I don't mind putting on my own trades and making my decisions on it, whether I win or lose. And that's kind of why I say, please make your choices based on the stuff you see, not simply what I see. Now, that still means I like both Target and Whirlpool here, as well as the other things I mentioned and some other things. I actually think this pullback was a good opportunity and it made things become more reasonable because we probably were a little overpriced. Now, as earnings continue to come in, if the companies continue to do well, the stocks will go higher, and if the earnings do poorly, they'll go lower. The interesting thing about a lot of the companies right now is the earnings have actually come in pretty good, but they're preparing people that 2025 may not be a good year and that the economy is slow. Now, that is very possible that things are slowing down, and it's very possible that 2025 is not as good as 2024 in some ways. But what I can tell you is the earnings are still beating. And that was kind of one of the things I was referring to in one of the other videos I was talking about, where I was saying that my goal is to make my decisions based on the earnings I see happening now, because it's very hard to predict the future. And even though the CEOs and the other people in charge seem to think we might have a slowdown and they see some things going on that could cause them not to have as good earnings as they were hoping going forward, that's not always the case, and it isn't always what happens. Sometimes things go just fine, and the economy keeps chugging along, even though the CEO might be nervous that things are going to slow down. They're not always accurate about that. They also bought a lot of inventory prior to the tariffs being put in place because they saw them coming along ahead of time, which is what made the GDP look stronger than it probably was, which is why first quarter could look pretty slow. That doesn't mean it really is. That just means they bought ahead of the tariffs going into place. Now, I'm kind of curious, and like I said, a lot of the locals who I've talked to, and it's not like I've talked to that many. We're only here for a few days, and it's not like I don't speak Spanish, which I think I said it in Monday's video. Was one of the things that kind of surprised me that there's so few people here who speak English. Not that I would expect people in another country to speak the language I speak, but the only reason I just assumed that people would is because it's a big city, and we have a lot of people from Mexico City who migrate to the US, so I kind of assumed some people spoke some English. Even in Vietnam, I found more people spoke English than the people here in Mexico City, and that really shocked me because I didn't expect anybody in Vietnam to speak English. Now, they do seem a little disappointed with Trump. They are super concerned about the tariffs. They think things are going to get more expensive, so they're stressed about that. At the same time, they're just living their lives and going about things, which is kind of cool because you can't worry about all of that. Either way, I'm going to cut the video a little bit short because I'm going to head back in. I'm going to go watch the Fed announcement. I'm going to try to edit this video so I can get it out today. And then we're going to go about our day. We're going to go see this library that's supposed to be pretty cool. It looks like it's primarily made out of glass, so you can look down and see all sorts. I think it's like 7 stories. And then we're also going to go to a local market and do some other things. Yesterday we went to the ruins outside the city, which were super cool. It was really pretty, and that was probably the favorite thing that I've done so far. The day before we did a walking tour of the city, and maybe that's why I was disappointed. My first impression with the guy who did the walking tour was not so great, but maybe it was the tour guide more than the city. Now that we're getting a little more acclimated, beginning to enjoy it. Anyway, if you guys could do me a favor and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, make some comments and tell me what you guys expect in the Fed meeting today, that would be pretty cool. Funny thing is, it'll already be done by the time that I get this on YouTube.